If your knees sound like a bag of chips every time you stand up, well, congratulations, you might be eligible for more than just that one VA claim. On a serious note, your bad knees may be service-connected, but there are other conditions that ride shotgun or tag along for that ride, and they wreck your quality of life. And if you're not claiming them, then you're leaving potentially big money on the table. Because we're also the top 5 conditions that ride shotgun with your service-connected knees, how to make the VA recognize them. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you know that I love talking about secondary conditions that are often related to the primary ones, namely because more often than not, all these secondary conditions, when added up, are greater than the primary condition as far as the percentage goes. Okay? VA law allows the compensation, so why not claim it? I'm Mr. X. I'm the guy behind the guy giving you all the information you want to know and need to know about the VA claims process. And this is the VA top 5. All right, number 1 here, lower back pain. Okay, if you've seen any of my videos, you know that one of these musculoskeletal conditions can oftentimes create other greater issues with other joints that are nearby. So, due to that knee pain, due to the limitation of extension of flexion that you have, due to that knee instability, with either or both knees, it can affect the way that you walk. This is called the gait. Okay, G-A-I-T. So, if it affects the way that you walk, so much so that it creates lower back pain and lower back issues, then you can get service connected for this. And once you're service connected for your lower back, then there's many other conditions that could be related to your lower back, which increases your overall combined evaluation that much further. Okay? So, they're looking through your treatment records to see if you have low back issues or gait issues. Okay? The term gait, look for that. Okay? Because if you submit a claim for your lower back as secondary to your knees, and you can point to a spot where, hey, on this day at this time, I was seen for gait issues. Okay? That's going to increase the likelihood that you're going to get a positive nexus for your lower back condition. All right, should be no shock. Number 2 on the list, hip misalignment. Now, this could be construed as hip pain or hip arthritis, but if your knees are so bad that it's affecting the way that you walk, and as we just talked about with your lower back, with your hip being the intermediary joint there, oftentimes if you have back pain due to your knees, then you're going to have hip pain due to your knees. Okay? That extra strain on the hips creates issues. And your hip evaluation under the VA rating schedule, you can have up to 3 separate evaluations just for your hips. The biggest baker buck, so to speak, is going to be based on the limited range of motion of your hips. Because with pain, as I previously talked about, pain only gets you 10%. It gets you 110. Now that 110% evaluation, if added up over 10 or 12 of them, it does add up. It has some teeth to it there. But, okay. Now, importantly, the range of motion limitations is where you're going to see the larger increases for your hip evaluation. Okay? So, track all of that. Since you've become service connected for your knee, ask yourself, what other conditions have I had? Now, think bigger picture. Think about it not just as hey, I had pain one day, okay, due to your knees. Because if it's only a singular day, then you're probably not going to get service connected for it. But if you have continued treatment for your hips or your back, okay, then this is where you can get a positive nexus due to your knees. I already guessed that number 3 on the list should be no shock, ankles. So we talked about the back and the hips because they're above the knee joint wise. Now we're going to talk about the ankles. Okay. Due to favoring of one knee or the other, this can create overuse on the other side. On the same side of your knee that's service connected, your ankle may need to overcompensate due to the pain or limitation of motion in your knee joint. This can create It's listed as ankle instability. This could be ankle strain. It could be, you could strain your ligaments in your ankle. In the end, ankles never easily give you a 10% evaluation. Now, higher evaluations are warranted with loss of range of motion, or if it's marked pronation. These things go to increase your evaluation. But ankles absolutely could be secondary to your needs. All right, number 3 on the list, depression. Now be off with me, though. If you thought I was going to say something about your feet, then you'll leave me a comment. Say, I thought it was going to be feet. Okay? Number 4, though, depression. Chronic pain in your knees. And if that's, translated to your hips and your back and your ankles, all that pain and loss of mobility, it can ruin your mental health. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Depression or anxiety are often granted secondarily to the pain of your service-connected conditions. Okay, even if your depression isn't extreme, you probably have days where, it's worse than others. Okay, that up and down roller coaster, effect, that's called waxing and waning in the VA language. Okay, some days you have good days, some days you have bad days. That goes for your knee, it goes for your depression. But the point is depression can be granted secondarily to your knee, and it can be a huge evaluation, depending on the symptoms and the frequency of it all. And number 5, plantar fasciitis. If you thought I was going to say something other than something related to your feet, then leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought I was going to say. Seriously though, plantar fasciitis. Now, with your knees, and in this video I talk about the joints surrounding your knees, going up and down the body, going up to the hips and the back, going down to the ankles and into the feet. Now let's do plantar fasciitis because that's the pain in your heel, roughly. Okay, other foot conditions could be related to your knees, like pes planus could be Howard's valgus or hand or toes. Oftentimes, I'm guessing that they're probably not going to be, but, I'm not a medical doctor. If I was a medical doctor, I probably wouldn't be making videos like this one, okay? But plantar fasciitis is due to the overcompensation of your knees, your hips, your ankles, your back. Absolutely, it is realistic and probable that plantar fasciitis is related to your knee condition. So, when you put in a claim, list plantar fasciitis secondary to the knee. All right, stick with me for tip number 6 here. All right, if you stuck with me all the way to the end, here's the 6th tip. And if you watched last week's video, or I should say my last video, then you probably already know what it is. So in between all these musculoskeletal conditions, starting with your knees and going up and down, due to all of the pain, limited range of motion, whatnot, if those things caused you to become obese as part of it as well, then on top of it, obesity could be an intermediary step in between your service-connected knee condition and either your back, your hip, your knees, your feet, your ankle, okay, and even depression even. So, for those of you that are thinking, well, how would you claim that then, Mr. X? Well, here it is. I would claim it, let's say, low back condition as secondary to your service-connected knee condition, whether that's your left or your right, with also obesity being an intermediary step with all of the previously listed conditions. Now, I know that's tough to write out, but I would spell it out exactly like that. Okay? Low back, secondary to your knee. Even make it 2 lines, and low back, secondary to your knees, with obesity as an intermediary. Why opposite is 2 conditions. They're only got rated as 1, but there's less confusion with that entire process. Anyway, let me give you a few more tips here. I'm going to go off script because I thought of a few other things that could apply. So bear with me here, okay? Going back to my last point about obesity. If the VA concedes that your low back condition is secondary to your knees, and they state that obesity is an intermediary step. If they admit that, if they can see that, then that opens the door for many, many other conditions that would normally be related, but could be. For example, if you have diabetes, if you have hypertension due to that weight gain, then you can get service connected for those as secondary to your knees. Okay? It's not going to happen with a lot of people, but it absolutely could. So that's one thing to consider. Other thing to consider is the timeline of everything, because all of those secondary conditions have to be diagnosed after you're service connected for your knees. Okay? Case in point, or do an example. So if you're service connected for your knees starting today, that you were diagnosed with diabetes 10 years ago, okay, it's probably not going to happen, especially through the obesity. If you're diagnosed with if you're so connected through your knees today, but you're diagnosed with a bad back 5 years ago, probably not going to happen. It could be aggravated to could be an aggravation issue there. But think about the whole body system, think about the whole system and how they are related. Okay. What condition came with your knee problems? Leave me a comment. Tell me what one is related. Let's talk about it. Okay? Please like and subscribe and share this video with someone who you know is limping but still hasn't filed a claim. Okay, seriously though, if your knees are falling apart, there's no reason, to let the rest of your body go down with that shit. Without the compensation you deserve. And Mr. X, please like, subscribe, leave a comment on what you thought, what you would like us to address in the future. This is the VA Top 5.